is Alternative Asia. So we'd like to explore new wave in Asia. We have design leaders from rapidly growing Asian markets such as India and China. As you know, the growth of the Chinese and the Indian market is remarkable. But progress of local brand design even more amazingly remarkable. And we have Pratap Bose. He is the head of design of Tata. He has been head of Tata for almost 10 years. And he vitalized automotive design in India and elevated the quality of the Indian design. And now he's also responsible for introducing new TAMO brands. He's talking about TAMO brands. Maybe you don't know TAMO brands, so it's the first time to make a presentation with TAMO. And a very progressive concept. And next is Fan Chan. He is from Guangzhou Motor Company. And he is a vice president, head of design of Guangzhou Motor Company. You joined in 2011 but, for Guangzhou Motor. Before, he worked for Mercedes-Benz in Germany. And now he is responsible for all design of Guangzhou Motors. And particularly, maybe some of you know, Trump G is a brand of Guangzhou Motors. This is the most growing brand in China. Very remarkable progress. And he is one of the star Chinese designers. All right, and last, Peter Horbury. Peter Horbury is a very well-known designer in the industry. He has various senior positions in his career. He has been head of Volvo, head of Ford, head of premium brand of Ford, and now he joined the Geely. And today he is talking about Geely, and Geely is premium brand, Lynk & Co. So, and plus one more project he's talking about. So it's going to be very interesting. And moderator for this session is Arimoto-san. Arimoto-san is very well-known design journalist, particularly very few specialize in automotive design journalists in Japan. So, Arimoto-san, ではお願いします。Please go ahead.
Thank you. Make a brief speech in Japanese. Okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is session 2. The title is Alternative Asia. If I interpret on my own, another Asia that you are not aware of, that is the context in which I'd like to proceed with this session, that you are not aware of. When I say that, one of the hints to introduce this session is, as Mr. Nakamura mentioned, JAC, Guangzhou, Mr. Zhang. Before joining JAC, he was with Mercedes-Benz. They have a studio in Beijing, but he was in Bindelfingen in Germany for 8 years. And Mr. Bose of Tata. Tata is an Indian company, of course, but usually he works in the UK. And Mr. Peter Horbury, I met him for the first time back in 1995. He was design director of Volvo. He is very famous for that, but currently he's executive vice president of design of Geely. Geely is a Chinese company, but he's usually in Sweden. Göteborg, Gothenburg. And for 1 week, he will come to China within a month. So usually there are their base, and there's a design studio. The boss of that design usually is located in there, but not all designers are like that. So China and India are a highly growing market in that way, so please keep that in mind. And then, with that in mind, we should listen to the presentation by 3 gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. Nakamura-san, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. And of course, Car Design News. I'm lucky and unlucky. Lucky because it's before lunch, which is always a good session. And not so lucky because the people who spoke before us, have brands, they say young, but our own brand is even younger. So Tata Motors has been making cars only since 1998, so makes it less than 20 years old. So it's a very young car company, and in terms of design, we spoke about a design Bible. We don't even have, at the moment, a small design book. So we are just starting out and creating something new. Okay, there's a clock here which is showing 14 minutes now, so I will try and go fast. Alternative Asia and Indian perspective. We are, of course, an Indian company. We are part of a big group called the Tata Group, which has 110 companies, and Tata Motors is one company within that group. Asia, basically, if you see, has some very interesting statistics. It's the largest landmass in the world. It has 4.5 billion people. That means 2 out of every 3 people live in Asia. Largest city is here, where we are today, Tokyo metropolitan area, and so, 2 of the largest 3 economies. But Asia is also about this word, at least the alternative Asia, is about ambition. It's a very important word. It's about achieving success, success in the world, success in your personal life. It's about innovation. Asia is very, very strong in the history of innovation. And most of all, this last word for Tata Motors and India is called aspiration, to aspire for something, to reach for something higher or better than you are today. So if you look at India in that specific Asian context, 65% of the Indian population is under the age of 35 years old. So you have a population pyramid which is actually opposite to the West and, of course, Japan. You can see the median age of the 1.1 billion Indians is roughly 28 years old. 35% of India lives in cities. In terms of GDP, if you look at purchasing price parity, PPP, it's number 4 in the world today. There are 1.1 billion mobile phones in India, which is 6 million new mobile phones and connections are being added in India every month. And last year, 110 million people flew domestically, so used air travel. So that's roughly the population of all of Japan, 110. I think Japan is 120 million. So it shows how quickly and how fast aspiration is driving the country. And this young, now very technically skilled population is changing the face of India. So that word, like I mentioned before, aspiration has changed everything in India. Who has been to India here? Some hands? Okay, great. And so you will start seeing that there's some, truth in what we are saying. For those who haven't been, you have an idea of India, Taj Mahal, the snake charmer, I don't know, the other people floating in the air and all of that. But aspiration is changing India and the society in a very deep way. So the way India shops for things. For example, what India shops for. This, for example, is Royal Enfield. It's a motorcycle company. Their brand showrooms or their showrooms look like this. And people go there to almost buy everything except the motorcycle. So they buy the clothes, the helmet, the accessories, because they want to be part of a story. They want to be part of something. We were mentioning stories earlier. Again, the taste in furniture, the sort of flavor of design that's coming in. This is a shop in Bombay or Mumbai, as you know it. It's called Le Mill. It's a great place to be, and it really showcases a lot of Indian but international design. Our heroes are changing. who is a hero in society, that itself is changing. So you have extremely influential people who are under the age of 40, 45, who set the benchmark for many things in India today. And some of them are actors, some of them are business people, some of them are theater artists, some of them are comedians. There's no designer yet. This is the way the India travels. On the left is the New Delhi airport. Some of you, as you've said, would have probably entered from New Delhi. Or the one on the right, it's the Bombay airport. Again, you can see the expression of a sort of Indian heritage through a very international architecture. So the flavor is Indian, but the concept is very international. This is one of my friends who actually lives in India and in London. So she does this sort of furniture. Very, very beautiful. Again, there's a flavor which is Indian, but it's a very global expression. Some of the fashion that you'll start seeing in some of the bigger cities, a lot of young women now are entering the workforce, so they have some money to spend, their own money. This is very important. So what they spend their money on is where we as a car company need to start talking to them. This is another friend of mine, Aditi. She's a jewelry and accessory designer, using beautiful Indian craft, but again, expressing her ideas in a very global way. What India exports is also changing. This is, as you know, Victoria Beckham. She did a campaign with Vogue. It was one of the highest selling issues of Vogue magazine globally. How India lives or wants to live. These are some of the houses that people are trying to build in the bigger cities in India. But again, like I said, this is aspiration. People want to live like this. That on the left is an apartment in Bombay. It's one house for one family. It is the first billion-dollar residence anywhere in the world. So that entire building belongs to one family of 4 people. So it shows you what's going on. And this is in Bombay. So when you drive, you can see this building. It's not particularly nice looking, but makes a statement of some sort. And the houses on the right, as I'm sure in much of China and other parts of Asia, is the aspiration of what people want to therefore live. So on the left is a whole building for one person, and on the right is probably a building for 100 families. The restaurant design is also changing. Again, what people experience. So you can see an influence of Bollywood. You know Bollywood, the Indian film industry. It's a very strong cultural driver. So the colors, the flavors, the excitement, and the energy is really expressed through some of these places. So again, these are some nice restaurants. If you want to go, if you're in Bombay or Delhi, please ask me. I'll tell you which ones they are. But again, designed by Indian designers who bring this global influence but still have a unique Indian statement. This is one of the shared office. We talk about shared economy. People are sharing everything, except, of course, sharing conversation. Sometimes they're always behind the mobile phone, sharing messages. But this is a shared office, and it was voted the top 10 places to work in the world. This is called Ministry of New. It's a shared office concept in Bombay. Of course, infrastructure, that's another big part of the Indian economy today. We had a bit of a slowdown, but it's picking up again. So lots of emphasis on bridges, on railways, on airports, on highways. So the country is changing much faster than we sometimes as companies are changing. This is also the reality, by the way. So everything is not this kind of glossy image that you saw in the last 10 slides. That is that would be quite symptomatic of a city like Delhi or Bombay. The picture in the middle, if you see, there's no traffic lights in that picture. So how the cars get past, we don't know. And on the right, of course, I showed you the Bombay airport, that lovely Bombay airport. This is maybe 1 kilometer from that Bombay airport. As you land in Bombay, you see this huge, like slums, favelas. This is also the reality of India. This makes, therefore, designing anything for India, and especially automobiles or cars, a very, very complex but unique sort of exercise, because there are these opposing pressures. You have aspiration on one side and then you have reality on the other. So how do you go about designing a brand and cars, and what language do you speak to your customer or your consumer is a very difficult thing to define. And I've met a lot of you from international companies who make the effort or attempt to enter India, and sometimes this basic understanding is missing. That how do you balance the opposing pressure? So I think in the luxury car market, situation we saw, there's beauty and function and all of that. That's their tensions. In ours, it's a very different tension. So you should always try and be on the top right, which is emotionally driven purchase decision, and you have an aspirational product. And the place not to be is in the bottom left, where you have a very functional product, functional motivation to buy or sell something, and it's only for utility. So Tata Motors, in about 2010, this is where we were, at the bottom of the left. This is a very difficult situation to be. So when we took over as the design department then, and my first job was to how do you make that yellow dot, Tata Motors Limited, TML, how do you make it move to the right? How could we do this? The first few things we did is, of course, we did a range of concept cars. That's the first thing a design team can do to get the message. So in 11, 12, and 14, we did 3 concept cars. We showed in Geneva, just to show the direction of where we want to go as a brand. And then we started translating that into some of our products. So this is a car called Tiago. We launched in 2016. This sells for $5,000. I don't know what that is in yen, but $5,000 is maybe the outside wing mirror of a Lexus. But this is the whole car. So there you see again the way we treat materials, surfaces, the details, technology. What you bring into the car is very important. This is another product we did. It's a 7-seat MPV called Hexa. This too, this retails at about $20,000. It's our top of the line currently, not where Land Rover goes. But this is another very, very successful product. And then finally, we did a 4-meter is a very important, like the K car in Japan, we have a 4-meter rule in India. You get a tax break. So we did the compact sedan less than 4 meters. It's a very, very big challenge. I want to really, all of you designers, I want you to think about how you can design a sedan in 4 meters and give the leg room, head room, shoulder room, etc. It's very, very challenging. In fact, I think it's one of the most complicated and challenging products to design in the automotive industry. And then this year, we launched a compact SUV. This is also 4 meters, called Nexon. This we launched last month, in fact, 28 days ago. And luckily, we have 10,000 orders for this in 28 days. So it's a very, very, at least initially, successful product. And then I showed you where Tata Motors was in the bottom left. This is now moving to the bottom right. People are taking pictures with our car and sending it to us. This has never happened before. That means they're falling in love with what we are creating. So we moved it up, but we wanted to make one more jump to really take it to the place of dreams. So with that, we created the new brand called TAMO, which is Tata Motors, in a short form like youngsters use, but also Tata Mobility. And this project we did in our Torino studio. It was a very secret project. Nobody knew, only me and Cosimo, who's here, chief designer from Torino. We did this as a exercise internally, and then as we went along, the product became more and more real, and then the company said we should put our money and investment behind this. So this was some of the first sketches. Of course, when you're creating a new brand, you need something really strong and powerful, an image setter. So we didn't do a little box on wheels for mobility. We said we'll do a sports car. The first composite sports car in India under the new brand. And it was really to capture this gaming, the game of Forza and Microsoft. How do we capture the imagination of the 14-year-old customer in India who will one day grow up and want to buy our cars? So that was the idea with the TAMO, and the first car we did, Racemo. This is actually Cosimo's sketch, I think. So it shows a very passionate, energetic, just like the Indian youth. This was the car we wanted to put into the game, Forza, with Microsoft. We tied up with them. There's some shots of the interior. Again, very simple, very minimal, but very high-tech, mirroring the ambition of the customer we wanted to capture. These are some beautiful details of lifestyle. And I'll just show you a quick clip. So this car was launched in Forza. At the same time, we launched the car in Geneva. Can you hear me a little louder? So this is how we launched the car in Xbox. And my figures are a little old here already. We have crossed 2.2 million downloads of this car into people's digital garage. And this is the final image I just want to show you. This is about TAMO as a brand. So you can see it can become many types of cars. A little more volume. A real car in the real world and a digital car in the gaming world, and how they come together. Okay, so that was the car. You can see, made in Torino. It was a really exciting project to do. We did it in 18 months, I think, from start to finish, with production level tooling, with the screens, just to mimic the same feeling you have while you're playing your game. This is our launch in Geneva. Tata Motors, we redesigned the stand. We got a new place right next to Infinity, funnily enough. That was the launch of the project. This was some things on the stand to really make people feel connected to the car. We had the gaming. So we launched the car in Forza and in Geneva together. So that 1 million has now become 2 million. This was slightly older information. We got some awards. Yesterday we won a German Design Award for the car as well, which in February we'll get the award. But the main thing, the most rewarding award is actually when you hand the keys of a new car to the customer. I think nothing beats that feeling. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bose.
Sorry, I have overshot the limit.
Yes.
Typical Indian time.
7 or 8 years ago, I visited India.
Yes.
But I've never seen such beautiful things you showed us.
Yeah, next time you come, please let me know. I'll show you.
Okay.
More than the confusion, there's something else.
Okay, next is Mr. Fan Zhang from the GSC.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to be here. The topic I'm going to talk is very ambitious. And a few years ago, there was a stereotype like there was no design in China. There was copycats, clones. But what happened ever since then? And what's going on in the design world? What will be happening in the future? Hopefully, through my presentation, you will have some ideas about what's happening in the biggest car market in the world. Myself, being as a vice president, I'm not only in charge of design, but also in charge of product planning, actually. So this really helps because for designers, they can get very early information about what's going to happen for the production. And also, the designer's idea could, in very early stage, to influence the definition of the cars yet to come. Here are some numbers. Asian Pacific is already becoming the biggest car market in the world, taking almost half of its share. And China, the biggest car market in the world, it has sold 28 million cars last year. The sales could be nearly 30 million this year. And for us, GSC is one of the fastest growing Chinese car company, if not the fastest. We've been, for the past few years, developing really fast. In the first half of this year, we have scored number 238 in the Fortune Global 500. And actually, GSC started with joint venture companies. It started with joint venture with Honda about 20 years ago. And then Toyota, and then Mitsubishi, and then FCA, and then others. But only since 2011, the first ever GSC's own brand, 传奇 in Chinese, has ever been sold. So a lot of gentlemen mentioned they are young, they have freedom. I guess we win the competition. From 2011, the 传奇 brand has been developing really, really fast. In the first half of this year, actually the 传奇 brand, or to the international world we say GSA Moto, has contributed more net profits than all the combination of the joint ventures. So the GSA Moto or the 传奇 already become the mainstream. Meet the team, please. This is a very, very young, passionate, energetic GSA design team. As you can tell, I'm already the oldest one in this team. And we are, although we are very young, but we are working in a very professional way. We sort of put into 14 different disciplines, start from design research or advanced design. We have our own special UI design team, and to project management or studio engineering, and everything we have. So with those backgrounds, the point I want to make is design is becoming the most powerful drive of Chinese car market. And we also believe design will be the key factor to drive Chinese automobile industry. Of course, you're going to ask why. And here, I'm going to share with you two perspectives. The first is let's look back to what happened in the past. Car is not invented in China. It's invented in Europe 130 years ago. When it invented, it was a machine. It was a mechanic tool to help people to get point A to point B in a faster way. Along all these 130 years, the solid perception about how car should be has been developed and also has been sort of freezed. The car should have its right proportion and also the right weight distribution. The package, the size of wheels, everything has been developed and also formed. And it's become kind of a formula, and designers just design a car based on those formulas. Well, what happened in China was quite another story. You know, when the first car ever imported into China, actually that was a replacement for the sedan chair or jackshaws. And just a show-off piece for rich people, for their status, for their fortune. And even after New China was born, Communist Party took over. Actually, the situation is not changed that much. There are only few cars produced in China, and they all used for the very, very important government officials for their normal commuting. So cars always treated as a very important show-off piece. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but this version is an older version. Actually, I added another slide showing what happened in nowadays. In nowadays, car is cheap good, not really cheap, but for normal people, it's easy access. They can buy cars. And once they buy a car, they start modify it. But the way they modify is totally different from the Western world. They're going to put some cushion on top of the seat, or they're going to ramp up the steering wheel, or they put some their doors inside the car or cushions inside the car. And when designers saw this situation, they would get mad because those customers, they destroyed the car. But when you start seeing almost everybody is doing this kind of thing, you start to notice, wait, there's something happening here. Maybe we designers should get re-educated by the behavior of those customers because there's the expectations from them. Therefore, I think the customers really think high of the appearance. Actually, appearance matters. As a fact, GSC, I think, is a good example how this design can drive the whole industry. For example, this compact SUV, we start selling in 2015 in April. Within 30 months, this car has been sold over 720,000 units and for over $10 billion. And we did the survey. Actually, over 46% of customers say they buy this car because of the design. When we did the design, I asked my designers, you have to do everything to create a very original design. The car has to be striking, fashionable, but not polarizing. You should let everybody can understand, can read your design. And there should be some features that indicate this is an original design. Another example is our GS8, mid-size SUV 7-seater. This is launched October last year. 3 months after its launch, the sales already pick up to over 10,000 cars per month. And then later, because of a shortage of the supplement of transmission, we had to cut down to 7,000 because the original plan was for 3,000. And the significance of this car is the price range already over 200,000 RMB, which was never the price range for Chinese cars. So that means this car has set a good example that Chinese cars can go up. One day, maybe we even can touch the premium segment. Yeah, the car has good stance, look very confident, proud. Inside is luxury, also integrates with technologies. And the lights, very special. We also have developed the family DNA and also the product lineup. Oh, just too quick. Yeah, you can see we've been very, very busy. And there are a lot of products yet to come in the coming years. So this was from one perspective. Another perspective, when we look beyond what's going to happen in the future. This whole sort of evolution of the automobile industry, although there are different stages, but actually the concept about the car hasn't been changed much. It's still a transportation tool, but with the influence of the new technologies, the idea could be changed dramatically. Now we see what happened to phones. And everybody's asking the same question, what's going to happen to automobile industry? And to this question, seems like China has very urgent need or demand, both from the customer side and also from the government side. Now China used to be left behind in terms of technology development, but now China is really progressive, opening to new technologies. For example, now if you go out, you don't need to take your wallet with you because everything will pay with your phone. This just happened within 2 years, everywhere, and you will feel this impact. So China is a place to embracing the new experience. And they are also very eager to get the answer to what's going to be happened. That's why you see there are so many new EV companies around the world. Most of them, they all have Chinese money behind. As for us, yeah, we are also one of them trying to get the answer, even trying to get the answer fast. So we've been developing concept cars trying to answer those questions. Questions like how to make technologies serve people better. We did a show car in 2013 showing what could be the interactive inside the autonomous car. When the technology is ready, what can people do inside the car? So the answer is form a band and or maybe put fish tank inside. And then how to create easier driving experience. We did another show car last year at the Guangzhou Auto Show. From exterior looks super sporty, very exotic sports car, but inside we try to create as big space as possible because incorporate with autonomous technology, we make the IP foldable. And how to transform a car to a living space. Another show car we did 2014, very nice, spacious MPV space, while we put a tea tree inside, especially for Asian people or whoever loves cars. Yeah, you can enjoy drinking tea inside the car, just like in your living room. How to make a culture blend with the technology. Another show car we did this year for Detroit Auto Show, we put a bonsai inside. Yeah, and also you could remotely control the watering and the lights by a special app. And how to make your car a friend. We made a cartoon character inside the car who will give you greetings. And the greeting will be different, depends on the different time or different day you stepped into the car. And also give you the informations and warnings about the car, but in a much nicer, more human-centered, more emotional way. And this is not a show car. This is a production car. It's on road already, and I believe this is the first time ever in automobile industry. So we keep trying. And the image we're showing here is another show car we're working on for next month's Guangzhou International Auto Show. The catchphrase is, when car stops, life starts. And you must want to know how that's going to happen. So if you're interested, please come down to Guangzhou Auto Show next month. I will see you there. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you. So probably we understand how rapidly GAC has grow and making progress. And but you need to keep the pace with rapidly changing the society and the technology.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So next one is Mr. Peter Horbury from now Geely, not Bose.
Thank you very much. And let me say, I am the oldest by far in our group. The group Geely, that is. So let me start. We're all learning that 15 minutes is no time at all, so I better get on with it. But this is the corporate structure, let's say, of Zhang Geely Holding. And as you see, it does include Volvo, Polestar, Lynk & Co, Geely, and now Proton and Lotus, new arrivals, and London Electric Vehicle Company, formerly London Taxi, and our commercial vehicle company. But there is one missing, which is Terrafugia, our recent acquisition, the flying car company. Or perhaps when we go to India, the flying car pet company. But anyway, that's the Geely Holding Group, and this is Geely Auto Group. So Volvo and Polestar are very well looked after by Thomas Ingenlath and his team. They're somewhat separated, but that leaves the rest of this, this motley crew together as one group. And I'm going to talk about three of those brands. One with a short but quite checkered history, one with far too much history, and one with no history whatsoever. Geely Designed, that's who we are, and who are we, where are we? These are the 4 centers that we've been operating in over the last 4 or 5 years, and we're adding to that, but that's the mainstay, where it started out as 5 people in a borrowed room in Gothenburg. It's now about 550 people around the world. And these are the buildings. Shanghai is where the expo was. One of the pavilions was turned into our studio, and we share it with other companies. Gothenburg, part of the old shipbuilding industry, very historic building. Barcelona, beautiful old house downtown. We occupy the top floor. And in Los Angeles, a somewhat regular building. But that's where we are. So when I started Geely Design, I was asked by Chairman Li Shifu to start from scratch, more or less. I looked at what I'd inherited, and this was it. This was the Geely collection. And as I said to the management, I said, look, this is not a brand. There's no 2 cars look in any way similar to each other. They're so diverse, it's like this. It's as diverse as the animal kingdom. But let's say we take one of these animals. And we say, well, a cat. Now, the temptation, of course, often is just to do this. The same design in various sizes and shapes. But the opportunity, if you look at this cat, is that you look at the cat family, and they are as diverse themselves as the rest of the animal kingdom. But with everyone having its own character, you can still see by looking at them immediately they belong to the same family or brand. So that's what we had to do to try and bring some sort of cohesion to the Geely brand. This picture was quite a nice one to demonstrate where we went to first. And the first car was on the way. Our friends at KW Design, who are here, they were working on this. Then we sort of came in and started to make it into what we felt was more the future of Geely, and it became the KC concept car in 2013, Shanghai. And that then became the production version, the Bose, which is now, it's been on sale for the last couple of years, and that gave us the start of the influence for the next wave of Geely vehicles, which are now what we'll show you here, going into the future. The KC concept, one of the things we said, let's use China. Let's be influenced a bit by our Chinese background, our Chinese heritage. And not overtly, there's no pagoda roof on it, you'll notice. But in some of the details, we've looked at how can we take Chinese elements and make them ours. From, the chairman said, I want to be able to look into the cosmos by looking into the front of a car. Okay, well, there's that aspect of it, or there's that tiny drop of water falling into the lake, creating those ripples. But then the details, some of them are from our ancient history, as this. We're not going mad, as I said, we're not changing the whole shape of the car, but in details, we're starting to use Chinese culture, Chinese heritage and history to give a stamp of China on our products. And this concept cars we showed was quite full of them, from the materials to the shapes. Another example here, the curvature on the IP was taken straight from the bridge in Hangzhou, a very famous bridge in Chinese culture, Chinese myth and mythology. It's the bridge at Westlake in Hangzhou, and we used that as the influence for the instrument panel. Here again, another very, very simple trick, but the folding of a Chinese dress. We just did the stitches on the seat slightly differently, and instantly people recognized it as Chinese. Down to materials and all the things in the interior. Sorry, I'm rushing it because there's a lot to show you. So over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been designing all the new Geelys. This is it was launched 2 years ago. This is the new facelift already, and we have a third one in the pipeline. So these are the changes we made. Interior-wise, we left it intact as KW had left it, but one thing we did is we went through every single piece of this interior with a fine-tooth comb and made sure the quality was where we made the biggest difference to a Chinese car. And I think you'd agree this is what has really been the change in the attitude in the Chinese industry, is bringing up that quality level to European and American standards. Then we set off on a number of new vehicles, the Boyue. Here again, the interior quality is the main story. We've been paying attention to every piece of that interior, the quality of the material, the fit, the finish, the build, everything. And there's that bridge, just to show you, take it into production as well. And it's great to have a story. The Chinese press love the stories behind the design. And when you have something like this to tell, it really does help. And the customers. Next up was the GS, sporty sort of crossover. And using the same interior, actually. That's another thing we brought to the table. It's odd that the design department should be the one promoting commonality of parts. But Geely was so diverse, so scattered in different factories run by different factory managers who decided on their own products. We've tried to bring it together and start to try and save some money by using the same parts. The new sedan, the GL. And you can see already the wheels are in the right place in comparison with what we were dealing with before. We're starting to understand that architecture is the basis for all good design. No matter what shape we put over a wheel, if the wheel's in the wrong place, it's almost pointless. So getting the basics right was part of the story for Geely, the Geely brand. This was a QT, the Panda. It was on the first picture, one of the original cars that we picked up. But just by taking the body side and changing the rest, we were able to produce this new Panda, or the X1, which retails for around about $5,000, which is quite amazing. Inside, that was the original with 4 different steering wheels by the look of it. And then we transformed it into this with its 10-inch screen. You know, for a car of that price, it is quite ridiculous, but That's the way we do it in China. We're really building up the quality and the content of our cars to be world class. And finally, on the Geely side, this was a concept we showed in Shanghai a few months back. It looks real because, to be honest, it is real. I can't say when, but watch out for it. So that was the new Geelys. 2 years ago, we sold 450,000 Geelys in China. Last year, we sold 750,000 Geelys. And this year, we will sell between 1.1 and 1.2 million Geelys. The power of design. Yeah. Well, we like to say that anyway. This vehicle. This is what they've been busy with in our Barcelona studio. And it's an icon, of course. So we picked out the old taxi, the TX3, and then wondered what can we make of it. And here was the package that we were given. And instead of 5 passengers in the back, they needed 6, so it became more or less a box. And we started doing exciting new ideas for the London taxi. But as we spoke to the London authorities, and especially the mayor, he wanted it to be instantly recognizable as a London taxi. So forget all your experimental designs, forget the daring newness. We want it to look the same. I said, well, if all you're doing is trying to avoid reprinting all the postcards of London, I understand. But this was the final design that we came up with in our Barcelona studio, looking very familiar. The round lamps, the square grille, the rear haunch, the shoulders, the rounded roofline and the little bustle back. All the elements that are there, and this is the production version, which is on the streets now. It'll be sold next year because every new taxi in London from 2018 will have to be zero emitting. And that's the secret with this one. It is electric. So on to Sweden, where we designed for Lynk & Co., the brand that had no history. Where do we start? It was a clean sheet of paper, which is something many designers dream of, but sometimes it's a daunting task. And it would be based on the same platform as a Volvo, so we had to make a complete difference between the Lynk & Co. product and the Volvo product. How does Volvo present themselves, we thought? Well, often it's the Scandinavian light, which is how they show Volvos. Out in nature, you know, it's the endless days of summer in Sweden, and it's the blonde wood, blonde interiors. Light is everything. And nature is where they tend to show their cars. So we thought, no, we'll do the opposite. We'll be downtown. And here's Shanghai on a sunny day, and it looks dramatic, of course. It's brilliant. But what happens when it goes dark? It's even more exciting, even more invigorating. What real buzz of the mega city was where we got our influence. And there's our car, the 01, in its home environment. 4 words we use: personal, which meant that we were designing. There was no marketing department in Lynk & Co., just some engineers and the design team. Sorry. Respectful, respect for the environment. Even if it's in the city, we have to be respectful of the environment and the people in it, to look after them in the city. Downtown, sometimes a little dangerous. New tech, absolutely. The customers in China expect to be connected at all times, in their car as well as at home. And dark, the most interesting word. As I said, the nighttime can be more exciting than the daytime. And that was what we felt was the interesting word which kept us away from Volvo. The face of the car in China is absolutely critical. We see we get the character of the vehicle by looking at its face. The Chinese always put that as the premium. Here we see how expressions can be created with faces. And that was the reason we created this. Now, in the East, the headlamps are the eyes, or the lights are the eyes. In the West, it's the windscreen. A big cultural difference. The movie Cars quite obviously showed where the eyes of the vehicle are, the windscreen. But here, it's the headlamps. A bit different. I mean, the human face has a certain proportion: eyes, the windscreen, nose, the hood, and the mouth, the grille. Whereas in China, the eyes can be slightly in a different position. So I think it's like when in China you look at the calendar, the animals. Animals play a big part in the role in Chinese culture, and therefore where a bird's eyes and its beak are different juxtaposition to a human face, I think we're able to use that as part of our influence as well. The body of the car, a cross between an architectural, more constructed look on the SUV, plus a little bit of that softer, more organic approach combined together, and a lot of details. The Chinese love details. The Chinese customer wants to see details inside details. Inside the car, connected, big screen, but also protective. A lot of shapes and forms that keep you cosseted from that outside world in the city. Now, choosing which color and material, that is a problem sometimes in China. One thing the young Chinese customer doesn't want to do is make a mistake in front of their peers. So what we did, well, we'll show what are the best combinations, and that's what we'll make. And here is the clear, it's called. Very simple, very clean. Onto the louder, with daring colors on the exterior, reflected on the interior. This is the club. Louder rock, with the red wheels and red trim. Inter. All these are combined. All these combinations are available, but you can't choose the brown exterior with the blue interior. We've kept it down to a set piece, let's say. No mistakes possible. All the way through to the PHEV. And this, the second car that we launched, the Concept 03 at Shanghai. Again, the combination, but less of the constructed lines, more of the flowing, more organic lines. Interior, very similar. And here it is in its beauty shots. But see how we can take the same design language from an SUV into a sedan by tuning the amount of construction lines versus the more organic shapes. It's like tuning the bass and treble, varying for each different type of car. And sometimes we have some fun. Here's a concept car, and I'm going to finish off with a short video just to show where the Lynk & Co brand is coming from and where we're heading. Turn it up a bit. In 17 minutes, that's the story of Geely so far. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Peter. You have 4 design studios in the world, right?
Sorry, 4.
Four design studios in the world.
At the moment, yes, yes.
And you didn't talk about the Los Angeles studio. Is it a secret studio?
All our studios are secret, but
Okay.
we know where they are. It's a very fledgling studio. We've just got a small team right now. We're hiring in California. I'll be outside later. It's just starting out, but we do expect them to be looking a little bit further ahead for all the brands. So it will be a more of advanced design. But at the moment, they contribute to both Geely and Lynk & Co products.
Okay. One more question about your design organization. The Sweden studio is totally dedicated to Lynk & Company?
Lynk & Co is
Lynk &
their
Co.
main brand. Yes, they are more or less. If there's a need for some sketch programs to be shared so we get more ideas, of course they can contribute, just like all the others. But they see the Lynk & Co. Cars through to the production design. Yeah.
So most of Geely cars are designed in China.
In Shanghai. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And similar question to Mr. Bose. You're located in Coventry, England. Okay. And what is the main role of Coventry studio in your whole design organization?
Yeah, so we have 3 global studios. One's in Coventry in UK, the other one's in Torino, in Italy, and the main studio where we do production execution is in India, near Bombay, in a place called Pune. And globally, therefore, these 3 studios, we were building the studios at the same time we were designing the cars. Mm-hmm. So it was a real double challenge that we had to build the studio, hire the people, create the skill, but at the same time we had to design the cars. So the role of the UK studio and the Torino studio, our European studios, is that very soon we'll be moving to 2 global platforms. These are modular platforms. One is from from Land Rover actually, on which we will build SUVs and other bigger cars, because Tata Motors has also Jaguar and Land Rover as a part of the family. And the second, which is our smaller car platform, is being, so the cars on the small car platform are being designed in England. Mm-hmm. The cars on the Land Rover platform are being designed in Torino. Mm-hmm. So each studio has a different role. As Peter said, that if there's a sketch program, of course everyone can contribute. And in the India studio, we also do the commercial vehicle design. Mm-hmm. We are the biggest truck and bus company in India as well. And we have another studio in Korea, in Daewoo, Daewoo commercial vehicles. So it's a big range of R&D facilities. But each studio has a slightly different role depending on what program they're working on.
Okay. And making a design organization and designing new cars, both job has been done simultaneously. That is that has been a problem for the GSC too, right?
Well, first of all, GSC has only 1 studio right now. For all those cars I have showed above, they have all done in our main studio in Guangzhou. But actually, at the moment, we are working on building satellite studios as well. One is ongoing in Los Angeles, just like everybody's doing, and trying to get the local talent, get the international view, and also create a place for young designers have a place to go to take shift. Another one will be building in Shanghai, just purely to get the talent to work for us. As I mentioned before, design is a strong drive right now in China. Every company has noticed that. Before, maybe being as designers, you have to fight really hard to get the authority to talk, and also to fight for the resources. But nowadays, you don't need to. Your boss will ask you to go, and they would supply all the resources you need, but you have to deliver. You have to beat the competitors. Therefore, we are under a lot of pressure how to become better. So we have to use all the possible means to develop, and also to utilize the international resources, just make us to be internationally competitive. Therefore, I think we just follow the sort of common paths, set up satellite studios, but we want to think even beyond. As I mentioned, what's going to happen for the future mobility, what's going to happen with the influence with new technologies. Yes.
I know that there are many very good design school universities like your university in China. But how is it easy to find good talent, good new talent?
Well, nowadays, a lot of young kids, they are very passionate about car design. A lot of young students, even though their major is not car design, but they're taking extra course, spending a lot of money to learn how to draw sketches. And some of them actually becoming really, really good. The education resources in China is good, but still cannot compare to that in the international world. The major issue is we lack very experienced teachers. So from the student side, they are very passionate, but from the teacher side, they need more support. Therefore, like us and also other local companies, we try to incorporate with a design school to have workshops, to sponsor degree projects, and also even to start design competitions. Just try to give the students more opportunity to see what the real design world is.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, what we did, we found the same thing. I mean, car design is a fairly new profession in China, let's face it, as the industry is fairly new. But what we did, we brought in a team of more experienced experts from all over the world, just a core team of people who knew the job. And then we brought in one or two Chinese designers who'd been working in the field, but a lot of young graduates who are full of ideas. I have to say the imagination is limitless, but the ability to get that fantastic idea to the next phase, to the feasible, producible product, that was missing. So what we did, we brought these experts in. And together they've created this whole catalogue of new Geelys and further on. And now we've got Chinese people who are directors within the studio. They've grown very quickly. They've developed very well. So one day, I suppose, I can go, and so my European colleagues can depart, because we've grown the thing from the seed into a proper working studio. And also connection with universities, absolutely critical.
How about in India?
Ours is similar, of course. India is even younger as a car market, but especially with design. And I always say to my colleagues who head studios globally that please try and create some studios also in India. I know Renault has done some good work. There are others, but I think more OEMs, Japanese, Korean, European, need to create some more studios in India, so that there is an ecosystem of designers. I think, like you mentioned, you find people with a lot of skill, but to go from a sheet of paper to sheet metal is a very, very long journey. And it's a difficult journey, and it needs a lot of experience. So I think if you don't create an ecosystem in a country, then it's kind of difficult to be the only company who has a significant studio. So my request is for all the design leaders here, please create at least a satellite or something in India. I'm very glad that Renault has one. Renault also has a design academy, which is great. Again, we sponsor lots of projects, partnerships with colleges. We even supply clay. We have people from Tools Corporation here. We supply their clay to other design schools, so that clay modelers can also be generated. So you need not only designers, you need studio engineers, clay modelers, digital modelers. You need the whole value chain of skills. This is very important.
Okay. じゃあ、ここで、ほぼ時間なんですけれども。
It's almost time, but from the floor, if anyone has any questions, we'd like to take up your questions too. Is there anyone who has a question? For the speakers from other countries, if no one is raising hand, they think that the Japanese are very shy. But I don't think you are shy, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe not so shy after 7 p.m.
Okay. So my last question is that I think Chinese culture is very interesting, and even Indian culture is also interesting for us Japanese, because the Buddhism was brought from India many years ago.
Yeah.
So in this context, I'm interested in China and Indian culture, and also very interested in how can you express your own homeland culture in your design. Peter talked about a bit about the bridge and the patterns. So can you add something?
Yeah,
about,
Indian culture is
this?
very interesting. One of the latest cars I showed you, the Nexon SUV, we say, a person who buys that can take his mother to the temple in the morning and take his girlfriend to the disco at night in the same car. So, India is all about duality and duplicity. So you can find that someone is very modern from the outside, but inside has a very strong sense of culture. This is respect for our elders, respect for the ecology. So for example, by 2030, which is in the next 12 years, India will ban the sale of all internal combustion engine cars, which is faster than what France has announced. If we'll get there or not, we don't know. But like I said, there was a mobile phone revolution which went from 0 to 1.1 billion phones in less than 10 years. I think when the electric car comes into India, that will change a lot of things. But like Peter said, we don't very overtly display a cut and paste of something from a temple into a car. It's more the energy that the Indian people have that you express in the design language. So when the car is standing still, it still looks very dynamic. Another thing we have in India, our roads are a little more narrow than maybe the US. So you don't have the kind of distance to see a car. So when you're much closer to the car, how do you capture some interesting elements of the car? So this is how it influences the design. So energy, a bit of futurism, but some ideas are very strong and they need to be reinforced.
Yeah, I think a similar situation to Chinese customers. Actually, when we started designing cars for Chinese customers, at the beginning we thought, could we get some sort of element from Chinese culture? But actually, it's a no-go, because we are facing the young Chinese customers who loves wearing Gucci or like a Prada or taking iPhones. Why would they love a car with a dragon or Lotus like a carving outside? So no, we are facing the new generations. That's the future. But so from the appearance, they probably just be loving the same sort of a trend as all the other international young people. But from inside, actually, along the years, there's very deep roots has been developed, and it's about their culture and the habit of living. For example, there's a very interesting example is, a lot of premium sedan being imported into China, they have to enlarge the wheelbase to get longer leg rooms for the rear passengers. But is that because the Chinese people have the longest leg in the world? Obviously not. It's because psychologically they need more space. They don't care about the physically. They think, I pay so much money for a car, I got to have the space, all the space I need, even though I don't need, but I still need to have it. That's the concept. As I mentioned in my presentation, the idea of having a movable living space actually is very deeply rooted in Chinese culture. So no matter what products they have now, they always have expectations that the car could give them more and could let them to do more inside the car, especially with the influence of new technologies. I think this demand, this drive is really, really strong, and also leave us, the designers, the great challenge and also great opportunity to come up with good solutions to satisfy them. So I say this is the great opportunity for all the designers, and you are welcome to join, to have fun in China. Thank you.
I will just add on the brand thing. Yes, it's true. All the European brands, be it cars, handbags, clothes, shoes, they've had to rule the roost for a number of years. But there are new Chinese brands who are now creeping up, luxury brands from China, and that bodes well, I think, for our Lincoln Co. that they are starting to appreciate and to trust a Chinese brand, and I think that's good for us in the future.
Okay, so we have to close this session, and I hope all of the audience has got some hints or inspiration about alternative Asia. Thank you very much, and please applaud.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, before we go for lunch, I'm sorry we're overrunning a little bit. I should start by saying konnichiwa. I think that'll be the correct way. I think we'll all agree that the last 6 speakers have been amazing. They've thrown some challenges and they've come up with some amazing imaginative ideas. However, with our premier sponsor, these things have to be made into reality. And I want to welcome on the stage, just to run through what they're going to be showing downstairs, our premier sponsor, Faurecia, Andreas Vlasak, VP of Industrial Design, for a short presentation.
Thanks, Abel. Thank you very much. The good news is you're just a few minutes away from lunch. That's great. So not everybody knows Faurecia. I'm not going to make a long speech on that. The whole thing will be very short. Faurecia is supplying to the entire automotive industry, I think pretty much every single brand in the world, mainly interior parts, everything that you can imagine interior, but also something that comes from the exhaust system business that evolves into something we call clean mobility, which of course, as you can imagine, becomes increasingly important. A big thing that maybe should be known, we are roughly 100,000 people in the world. We are getting close to 20 billion. That gives you a little bit of a feel of the size. And I think it's interesting what we just have seen also in the previous session. We have been for the past, I would say 100 years, the company is not that old. We have been dealing with almost the same amount of brands roughly, at least in the last 20, 30 years. But now suddenly all these Link & Co's and others are popping up. So the number of customers for a supplier has more than tripled recently, which is a very interesting thing because it also means that we have to pick and choose who do we work with, how, where do we invest. And I think Faurecia has a very good pick, and actually all 3 that we've just have seen here, we are working together with them, so I'm pretty happy about that. And we have a design presence in India, so I encourage everybody else to do the same. There's something big happening since I'm in this industry. People talk about the revolution of the interior. The interior becomes the most important thing in life. It was never wrong as a statement, but I think it has never been as true as it is right now. So as I'm saying here, the butterfly is not just an improved or modified caterpillar. We are really now going into a new world where the automotive design and the automotive product as such is challenged by all those technologies that you know as well as I do, all these autonomous driving, electrification, the different use models of shared driving, the electric driving, of course. So what does it mean? It means, first of all, that these new players that I just talked about it's possible for them to exist, suddenly. we have to learn a lot how to work differently, because if you work for let's say for a Volkswagen over the past 50 years, and you're used to these very structured and very useful processes, and then suddenly you work for a Tesla who does pretty much the same thing, or actually much more in not even a third of the time, you also as a company, we as a company have to adjust. So it's also very good and with a lot of pride that we can say that yes, we are supporting all these Mercedes, Volkswagen and others, but we also work on for example, the Model 3 of Tesla that's just launched recently. So I mentioned in the title something about this well-being magic versus the digital magic of the new world. Of course, we all talk about the connectedness. Everything is screens, but I think it has been said in the first session already earlier this morning. People, they don't really want to live in a bubble of OLEDs, of just screens. We are still having this new technology, connectedness, everybody's connected at any time to everything else and within the car and to other users in the same car and to other people outside the car. But of course, at the same time, we will always, and I think Japan as a culture is a great example for that, somehow be rooted into the authenticity. We would like to touch a material to feel that, for example, the wood of this vehicle here, which is the new XC60 from Volvo, is a real open pore wood that we are able to touch, and we are feeling in that case, again, a brand heritage, a Scandinavian heritage of that particular brand. So as for SEA, we're pretty happy that we are entering both worlds. So we come from the structural parts, seats, metal structures, complete seats, instrument panel structural parts, a lot of plastic injection wrapped with some skins. That's where we come from. And then more and more we went into the field of decoration, the example here, and now even more so into the world of HMI, user interaction, and overall, and that's a new challenge, into user interaction, which also means new skills to be established within Faurecia. These are design skills, of course, in my personal team, but also all the technology skills that come across in order to enable you as the brands to make this possible. So our target is, of course, to provide portfolios of those products, technology bricks that I come to in a second, and we then have as much as possible a brand understanding, because the same technology brick is a different one if we work for a Genesis brand or for a Lexus brand or for an Infiniti brand. We talk about the first panel session this morning. So it's a lot about the fusion. It's about the seamless integration. You cannot, in the space of a car, which is somehow confined, just add more and more functions by juxtapositioning one next to the other, more buttons, more screens, more space, more decoration, more functional things like air vents, etc. These things have to be more and more seamlessly integrated. A decoration part is not anymore just decoration. It is also functional. A functional part like an air vent is not anymore just an air vent. It's also a decorative element. And you need to have a very large, also industrial base, and of course design capability to allow this to happen. That's what we provide to the game. You see actually upstairs in the 52nd floor a small version of this big collection wall where we have all these technology applications of our portfolio showing. Here we just have a small sample. You see much bigger ones on the major auto shows like recently in Frankfurt, where all of those decorative, comfort, and other technologies are showcased, as well as interactive elements as you see them here. This is the big wall as we have shown it just a few weeks ago in the Frankfurt Auto Show. And from there we get to just some of those pure technology bricks isolated. So these are just some images of things we have recently shown at the Frankfurt Auto Show. This is for some of the audio specialists I know that here in the room. This is something where we can create single acoustic and audio bubbles within the vehicle, where without moving physically the speakers around, the people can all together listen to music. Suddenly one of the person gets a call and listens to the call without any headphones or anything, and the music goes down for him, but not for the other people, and then being back again for a common enjoyment of the music. So this is enabled through technology integration. This is also enabled, of course, by the choice of the real materials. So you see how technology, interaction, HMI, and materials decoration are coming together. Another one is this possibility that we call the smart butler, smart control unit, where you're enabling not only to hold securely your smart device, but you're then directly interacting with a screen that can be further far away, that can be existing with a visual feedback on the small pad, or it's just the trackpad, and it allows you to have this perfect connectivity with your own mobile device. Or another thing, we of course do a lot of things internally, as I have mentioned, but we're also partnering up and increasing our scope through acquisitions and partnerships, one of them being Parrot, that is officially announced. So the automotive portion of the company Parrot, they're also doing drones, that's not us, has been purchased by Faurecia. That allows us on an Android base to have all the connectivity, the traditional one, as well as the non-traditional ones with all these new applications which are coming in, directly integrated into the vehicle and into the use cases. So first of all, we integrate this aesthetically, physically into the vehicle. We are not working with a mirror link. What is happening is really happening in the vehicle itself, in the architecture of the electronics in the car. That comes from Parrot. And we have two elements of this. One is a standardized element for all these USB-based inputs which are coming, also inputs which we do not yet know, which might come in 1 year or 2 years, and others that we are already knowing, and another portion that is adapting quickly to all these new things. So it's also investment friendly and starts to be very successful in the automotive industry. New structures. If you talk about autonomous driving, you have to have all the seat comfort, all the movements of an occupant done in a different way. I'm not going in all the details of what it does, but it enables people to be safely moved around in the interior with all the comfort features moving together with them. That also means that, for example, from a thermal point of view, I'm in a different position. My thermal comfort has to adjust. You see, again, the total integration of everything that can happen. We are providing solutions for that. You're seeing the same smart butler, smart control unit I mentioned earlier in an armrest here coming directly out of a seat armrest. So also here, the seamless integration between various areas of the interior helps. And this is, by the way, it somehow goes without saying, an advantage we bring to the game because we are working on an entire interior. At the end, we don't care if a feature ends up rather in the seat or in a console or in an instrument panel, because it's all a part of the same potential content we are providing. And of course, occupant sensing as well. Occupants' health and well-being is important. So if you're able to sense the respiration rate, the heartbeat rate of an occupant, that can be a safety issue in case of an accident because of very fast support. But it can also supporting through a massage that is exactly tailored to you in every single moment in the vehicle experience. And it's a part of an overall vehicle experience. Here you see how large the scope is of various products. Or here, another one where we're simply merging physically what I said in my introduction, the world of the digital displays which are moving, which are present, which we are interacting with the physical world of skins, where we have a solution where the skin is as well a part of what is actually moving and adapting. The screen is moving, as you can see on this small video, but the skin is moving as well. So there's, again, the seamless integration between different things. The execution of this will be completely different if we talk about Tata, or if we talk about a Land Rover, or if we talk about a Guangzhou Automotive or a Geely product. But this is the way how we are operating in order to make sure that nothing is left out. We are absolutely obsessed by the details, and this is why it's important to work on all these elements of our designs. And with this, we are getting super close to lunch. I thank you very much, and thanks a lot, Shiro Nakamura, for the invitation, and of course, Car Design News Able. Thank you very much. I'll leave it here.
Yeah, we can go for lunch.
Thanks.